says we are live on Vimeo, Facebook, Reinventing the Tattoo, YouTube, and a couple other things. Oh, maybe LinkedIn. Let me click add LinkedIn.
Are we business people now?
That's where professionals go. You could do your doom scrolling. You could do your doom scrolling on LinkedIn, and like you could pretend you're a professional or whatever.
Yeah.
LinkedIn, I would highly recommend.
I don't think I've ever been on LinkedIn. Maybe I started a LinkedIn profile one time years ago, but yeah, never been back on it.
You know, I kind of joked about the amount of people that were watching it, but then I got a message from a magazine publisher about he wanted to interview one of the guests that we had streamed, and I was like, well, bam, there we go. Even if it's only a small amount of people there, it was the right amount of people. So, anyways, we are live, and welcome to Monday morning. A little late.
What's up, everybody? Thank you for joining us today. This is episode number 31 of the Tattoo Weekly, hosted by myself. I don't know if I'll get this right. Gabe Ripley and Jake Meeks of Tattoo Now and the Fireside Tattoo Network. So as we said, we're beaming out all over the place, YouTube, Facebook, Reinventing. Let us know that these streams are working in the chat. Tag a friend who loves tattoos, who would love to join us. As I said, Reinventing the Tattoo, you can just go straight to the website anytime we have live events, and there we are. You can check out some of our weekly drawing groups and shows on that Reinventing network too. Before we kick things off, we want to say thank you to our sponsors for helping us push out cool content like this, you guys. World Tattoo Events, giving us the largest, most comprehensive resource for tattoo events in the world. Thanks again to Raw Pigments with acrylic-free inks, and D-Lives Pro, helping artists and clients protect their art. Also, of course, thank you to our affiliates, Fireside Tattoo, thanks Jake, and the Apprenticeship Diaries, and ecofriendlytattoosupplies.com, all great companies. Without any further ado, let's bring in Jake and Gabe now for, like I said, episode number 31.
31. No one thought we would make it to 31.
Fiesta.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
That's Cinco de Mayo coming up. Right, tomorrow's May the 4th be with you, and then the day after is Cinco de Mayo. So
Wednesday, but yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, Wednesday.
My daughter has to dress up for school on
the day after tomorrow.
All right, well, I'm going to roll the intro clip and then we'll kick things off. And here we are.
How did I spell that wrong? Entry?
INRO.
Intro?
Yeah.
Oh, is that what it says in the
how do you spell it? I'm sorry.
You left out the T.
So it's INRO?
Yeah.
No. Oh, yeah.
I need to find this now. INRO.
Yeah, so what you're talking about is one day we decided to make an introduction little thing, as you guys just saw us roll. And it's had that wrong date on for a while, which I prefer Sunday mornings. We've talked about, or Monday mornings, we've talked about it. So
we've talked about that and just never fixed it. I didn't notice that intro was misspelled though. I just noticed the date was off.
On the file name.
Oh, gotcha. All right. So no one sees that part. Good.
Yeah. So what's been up with you, Jake?
I've been out for the last few weeks. I had a show week before last, I guess it was, and then the last 2 Mondays. You can tell if you watch this show regularly, I'm in a different space. The last 2 Mondays, last Monday and today, I've had to tattoo on Mondays, which I typically don't do. It's not my tattoo day, but I've had 2 clients coming in from out of town. And you have to kind of bend to their needs, however the flights work. So I won't complain about having people, having a clientele that's willing to travel to get to me. That's I appreciate that. So I definitely won't complain. But yeah, I've been out. I didn't get to hear much about. I know you the same weekend I was at Space City. You, Lauren, were in Tahoe, so we haven't seen each other since before those shows. So I'm sure you talked about it last week, but I'd like to hear about it. So many good tattooers were there.
Yeah, and it seemed like some of your friends were there too, of course. It would have been fun if you were there.
I know, I've got to get in on that one. And hopefully they're not, Space City is one that I always do. And they've never they've never been on the same weekend before. Space City, COVID kind of threw everything off. So Space City got pushed. It's normally in February, but they did it Easter weekend, which is a little weird, but yeah.
So Dax, the guy who puts it on, who does a great job. I really like him. Super cool, punky, spunky personality. But he said he's going to do it again in April. The dates are announced. So I'm not sure if Shaquem announced dates yet or not. Yeah, he's a cool dude. And I'd love to ask you about your experience too, because I've only heard really good things about that show.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. Yeah, maybe we can talk a little bit about both of those shows. And what else do we have today? Well, I know we don't have a guest today. Who do we have next week? You just told me.
Caroline Evans.
Okay, nice. I know her name. I can't picture her work. Where's she from?
Yeah, you met her probably, I would say, at the BYOB event. I saw her a few times through Reinventing, but she was, I could pull up her work for sure. I really like Caroline. We shared her work recently with the New Jersey announcement. Were you here for that?
Oh, yes.
I think that's what she wants to chat about.
Okay. Yeah.
That's
why her name sounded familiar. Right. She had made an Instagram post about that, about the New Jersey ink regulation.
Yeah. I have a clip from, Jeff Johnson, who did a recent interview. I've got Sean Barber's memoir book here.
Oh yeah, I have that book. So good.
Probably show off a little bit. I did want to mention that we did another Spanish art jam with Jose Baena, Baena. He's awesome, and the whole crew was really great. They seemed like they had a good time. I need to learn Spanish. I really do. But then what else? We could talk about Hell City a little bit, because I think we're all going to be at Hell City, and I have
all going to be there.
I have a floor plan laid out here, and talk about a little bit more what we're doing.
Yeah. Crazy thing is that will be the first time ever we've had the whole band in person under the same roof at the same time. Isn't that weird?
Well, I might be elusive like that. The more I see people go down for COVID, I'm like, motherfucker, I can't believe I got 2.5, 3 years not having it. I'm going to go to fucking Hell City and be around 1,000 people.
See, I haven't had it either, Gabe. And I think that's the reason why is because I'm just keep staying optimistic and just being choosy. It's like a nice hybrid version of being choosy.
Well, we have 3 big rooms that have high ceilings, and I don't give a fuck if I'm the only person there masked. And you could give me all the arguments about whether they work or not, but I got those N95 ones, the real ones that fucking they work. There's no question about it. I don't give a fuck what you think. And as I said before, I don't have enough brain cells or blood in my sugar system to fuck around with this thing. So
yeah, we need all the brain cells we can get, Gabe. You got a lot of good ones left.
I also have some topics. I figured we could do some topics, right? So I do want to start up the quiz. That is, who the fuck did it, right? So we could show off tattoos. We could all guess who did it, but I don't think we have one prepared. We do also ask people to drop in the comment section some of their artists or tattooers who we should know. Try to stump us, and then maybe we could show off some of those artists' work live. And like I said, I kind of have a whole little list of topics here, so we could ask them, and then I guess maybe we could ask the question, and then maybe we could ask in the chat room whether they want to have a real answer or a snappy answer to a stupid question. That's TM'd, because there's no such thing as a stupid question, but snappy answers to stupid questions is definitely a thing.
Gotcha.
Okay.
That sounds good.
Probably shouldn't do snappy answers to stupid questions. Might get in trouble.
Well, all right. Oh, that sounds good. So what kind of what kind of topics are we wanting to hit this morning?
Okay, we're going to hit one of our general questions for tattooers. Oh, how about this one? And Jake, it's a funny, I guess, obviously, Lauren and I are collectors, and you're the tattooer here. We have tattooers watching. It's good to hear from everybody, but let's see. So do you see tattooing as, well, maybe that's a little bit I was going to say, so the questions that we'll be asking in this segment will range from things like, do you see tattooing as fine art, work for hire, or both? I think that we could probably all come to agreement, but it's good for others to hear the discussion. Like, why do people get tattooed? Examples of your favorite client motivations. Why don't we? Oh, well, no. Again, we got 1 out of 3 tattooers here. We could do things like.
Where do these questions come from again? Did I miss that?
I have lists of questions from a documentary. Lauren has me trying to string together some documentary kind of ideas here. So I got as far as printing out all of my fucking massive questions. Okay, we're going to start doing that right now. When did you start thinking about your tattoos as a collection? Presuming that you're thinking about your tattoos as a collection, can you think about when that transition was? And I could lead off. I'll start off with. I was probably 2 or 3 or 4 years in. Sean O'Hara was tattooing me. He had been starting to do. I got some shitty tattoos. I saw that he was doing some cool color tattoos. Sean, you gotta find him. He's in. Maybe we'll link to his interview. And then I was hanging out with a tattoo shop for a little bit, doing computer stuff. Continuing to get, I was trading out for adequate tattoos at that point. And then I read the very first tattoo artist magazine that had, I think it was the one that had Adrian Lee in it. But whatever, it was the Adrian Lee issue. And then when all of a sudden it was like, boom, oh, okay. I kind of see what could happen. And that's not necessarily even collecting as much as bodysuiting, large work. But then it became very clear that anything I get from here on out should fit in a collection. And so then I lasered a bunch of shit that I had gotten and started, collecting. And I guess to what was the exact question? Oh, when that was when I started thinking about it as a collection. And I guess
after seeing Adrian Lee's work as a cohesive.
Yeah, and then from there on out, and I guess what I would propose, the advice would be, the best. It's like one of those ancient proverbs, the best time would have been yesterday, but the next best time is today. To start thinking about your tattoos as a collection.
Yeah, that's good. What about you, Lauren? I haven't really seen, Lauren, I haven't seen your tattoos much in person. I don't even know who all you've collected from, and if you even think of it that way.
Yeah, if you think about, I guess it comes at what point did you have that aha moment or that realization, more or less, less about who it was, but more about what I was thinking and seeing. I think when I saw Stefano Alcantara's work in person for the first time, I realized that the levels were real, and it changes your perspective of going in, can you do this versus this is what I want? And a lot of times, if I look at my tattoos, I'm thinking this is not a standard collection for sure, because I traveled a lot and I tried to make opportunities come up. That was kind of where my collection kind of derived from. But once I started realizing that another artist is going to be working right next to a piece that I'm not necessarily proud of or I'm not necessarily comfortable with, it was kind of not necessarily embarrassing, but it showed that I was naive when I got those tattoos. So I almost wanted to be a lot more mature about how I approach visible tattoos for sure. The everyday, my sleeves to say the least. I kind of jumped in a lot more than I should based on just the situation. I've gotten tattooed at conventions. I remember getting tattooed at the first Empire State Convention, all sorts of stuff like that. So it's hard to describe, but looking back, like you said, there's no thing, but moving forward for the rest of my body, at least I feel like I've come to the conclusion of what I want way, way in advance.
Yeah. My, I guess my experience, I came up in a shop that brought in really high level guest artists. Even back, 20 years ago, we had really great artists coming through. And so my idea of collecting was just trying to get something from that person. So I would try to think about, what I liked about their work and give them a subject matter that they could, that I thought they would, grab and run with. And so I ended up with kind of pieces, because of that, individual pieces. So I was probably a little slow to realize, how they all work together on my body, because I was just kind of giving up a panel here and a panel there. And I probably started thinking about that more, not on my own body, but on when I'm designing tattoos for other people. I started, maybe within the last 10 years, really focusing on the surrounding tattoos and using those to inform what I was going to do. So things like looking at a color palette just to see how color settles on someone, because if they already have a tattoo that's 5 years old, I know what colors look like in their skin. So I could use that and pull from those, and maybe use, if I'm working against an existing piece, use some existing colors. Or if there's a piece that is drawn or presented from a certain perspective, trying to follow that same perspective with my piece so that they at least kind of belong together, and not just, I'm not a fan of pork chopping tattoos together and just ignoring the piece next to you. I feel like it's lazy, and we should be better than that these days. So I thought about it more from my work on other people than I did, on my own body. And it's only really recently, Andy Chambers, I've told you guys several times, is doing my back piece, which has turned into kind of a full back bodysuit. It goes down to my ankles. And that only happened because of all these little slivers of weird skin that ended up kind of like open and in between, his piece. So it's like, well, we may as well either cover that or pull this into that. And so only recently have I really started thinking about my collection as a cohesive piece. But I definitely thought about it more when I'm doing tattoos on other people, trying to make sure that I'm not just ignoring whatever is around. Our first interview, the first time we had a Guy on the Fireside podcast, he talked about how you can really earn lifelong fans or lifelong clients by just revisiting an existing tattoo. He's talking about working against someone else's tattoo and be like, well, if you don't tell anyone I won't, let me just go through and bump these lines back up so that they look like they belong with my piece. It's a 5 or 10 minute thing that you might spend kind of working into an existing piece just so it looks like it belongs with your piece. And then people are like, holy crap, like he really cares about how this thing looks settled in. Such a simple way to to earn someone's trust and, earn their business moving forward.
Yeah, cool.
It's like a chivalrous move.
We've got some comments in here. Marty Boliard, I'm not sure I pronounced that right. He's been a frequent a viewer on the Facebooks, I think. He says, morning, everyone. Have a great day. He's been to a ton of tattoo conventions. Stevie Money says, good morning from the Tattoo Money Gang. I've got a new website in mid-launch for Stevie. I'm pretty excited about that. Let's see. And then Stevie says, I love the fact that art, especially tattoo art, is so subjective. Great topic. And then he says, I started getting pickier about open skin after he started collecting. And I think that actually is another good milestone, right? Like as we start getting tattoos, all of a sudden, then we realize we've run out of space, and some people you can see fill up quick, but that's a good, I got a milestone where you're like, oh shit, wait a minute, I better slow down. I only have so much skin. And then see, actually, Jason and Rick are beaming in on one of the YouTubes. Jason asks, how did the size of the tattoos you first started collecting impact your views of tattooing? And would you go as big if you had to do it again? Fucking great question. I'll go last.
Would you go as big on the tattoos that you've collected?
So talk about the size of your first bunch of tattoos. And then would you do that size again?
Yeah. I personally would plan more thoroughly. I started collecting fairly small tattoos to start, like a outer calf piece or a forearm piece, and there was no real plan behind it. And I think that's the way that most, at least back then, that's the way people looked at tattoos. Now people, because there are so many great examples of large scale work that flows and looks awesome. Now you have people probably that start with the concept of having, large pieces. And if you think that's what you want, I think that's the way to go from the very start. That way you're not fighting an uphill battle trying to work against, what's already there.
Yeah. How about you, Lauren? What were your first, what was the size of your first couple tattoos, your first tattoo?
Oh, I would say that, mine started out like a regular palm size, but I think that I would have preferred, if I had the knowledge now that I didn't have then, I would have asked myself, like, what is my end goal? Is this a gallery of many pieces, or is this a single piece gallery? Like I enjoy being tattooed by more than one artist. I think it's a special experience, and that it's like so intimidating, but yet you want to do this type of experience with more than one artist, but it's hard to think of a cohesive, suit, so to say, or a cohesive work without sticking with one artist. So I think at the very beginning, I would have liked to plan something out, found a small group of artists, maybe 3 or 4, to do all of the work. If I would have thought about that then, but then I would have denied myself the opportunity to be tattooed by so many different people.
I mean, it's hard to be a mature enough, tattoo collector to envision getting a bodysuit before you take the dive in and get a couple tattoos, right? Likewise, my first tattoo, I was 17, went in with a buddy in the Haven to go to the biker shop, and he didn't give a shit what age we were. I wanted to get the parrot. That was like $160, but I could afford the dove. It was about the size of a quarter. I got you both beat. It was the size of a quarter on my ankle. I got a dove on my ankle as my first tattoo. I thought I was so badass at high school. And then I tested out a couple more waters, like I did a lot of testing. So I got one on my shoulder at one point, that fucked up my back piece. Even when I started with my hand, by the time I was even getting my hand tattoo, I didn't get a full hand tattoo. I got a little small one. And then I was like, okay, now I could get a full hand tattoo, but we have to work around it. I have the most subtlest Jeff Gogway tattoo in the world. It's like some clouds. And, but then I basically tested out every body part with a tattoo that was too small. And then I've had to laser those or somehow compromise, the future. And it is pretty amazing to think that these days there is enough media that people can catch that tattoo with wisdom advice, that they can make, wait a minute, maybe I don't actually have to experiment and get small, crappy, entry-level tattoos. They could actually skip kind of past that, Lauren, to your point of like, how do you design a bodysuit ahead of time? Maybe we could run maybe Jake, you could help us run a workshop that's just doing thumbnails of bodysuits, that might even mash up some different styles, right? So that you could have a wash of black work and then black and gray or real. Again, you kind of.
I think like even if having like the knowledge to for a first-time client to see those things, whether or not it's like, okay, these are going to be your visible areas, even though it's common knowledge. But at what point do you want your arms to look nice together? Your legs to look nice together. Those are things that it's
This discussion reminds me of I just saw my buddy Aaron Springs, who's a fantastic new school tattooer. I saw him at a convention recently, and I always his right arm I always pay kind of close attention to when I'm around him, because he's collected from different artists, but his right arm it has pieces from like Sean Will, Victor Chill, Timmy B, similar stylistically, these guys, and all doing kind of new school work. And I think if you are going to collect from different artists, one way to think about it and to simplify it for yourself might be to try to stick with similar styles. It doesn't have to be a similar theme. The subject matter doesn't necessarily have to be similar, but similar styled artists against each other, because that piece, although it's different pieces, his arm looks very cohesive. Even the way that the skin is used through the piece is really purposeful. And of course, those are, Timmy B, Victor Chill, and Sean Will are elite, at the highest level of what they do. And so they all paid attention to the surrounding pieces, but that's what you're looking for, and so if you are collecting, like Lauren, I agree with you. I like the idea of collecting from multiple artists, and I've committed to Andy for my entire back. And now I realize that I'm really running out of space, and there's so many people I'd still like to get tattooed by. A solution to that problem is to kind of try to find a consistent theme style, for one style blending into another style. So if you're going to collect from, I know from black and gray artists like a Bob Tyrell or Ralph Nonweiler or whatever, maybe you give up an area for that style of work. Might be a good way to approach it.
Yeah, exactly. Jason Lisa says yes, bodysuits by Jake. He would totally be there. And again, part of it would be Jason. The artist. Even if we end up with again a half a dozen to a dozen different types of thumbnails. So here's a koi fish that's in a again, you can match up the styles, or you can just have it set up for different types of artists or whatever. Just getting a half a dozen of those out there puts that idea seed into collectors' minds to bring to their tattooers. Those bodysuits, you could almost, and again, with large work like that, you would almost be able to bring it to an artist and be like, can you be the arts director? Clearly I don't, the next fucking 5 years of tattooing or 10 years of tattooing my whole bodysuit, it would be pretty cool to have art direction, but like not have to do all of the, the work. Like those old masterpieces, right? Like an old masterpiece, would be done by a crew of people.
Right.
And then
What would you say is a
the
good
master comes in at the end, puts the last, darkens the darks, lightens the lights, takes credit for everything.
Yeah. What were you saying,
I was
Lauren?
going to say, what do you think would be like a good, so if you're going to like segment your body and you're like thinking, okay, I'm smart enough, I'm ready, I would like to get tattooed by, 15 artists or 10 artists, do you think that would be like, as a collector, when is too much? I've been tattooed probably by more than 10 people already.
Yeah. What is too many artists to plan a bodysuit around?
I'm just curious in your opinion.
Yeah,
Depends on the piece. Depends on the bodysuit.
Yeah, that's
right?
true.
Yeah.
And it really depends on what the goal is too, right? Is the goal collecting? Is the goal to get a really awesome piece by a variety of people? Some people are, want to get 50 people on them, and some people would be happy with a dozen. Body's a lot of space, like 2 arm sleeves, 2 leg sleeves, front, back, neck, hands, it's a lot of space, so you could have, fit a fair amount of people in there.
And also one other kind of limiting factor is the artist that you're choosing. Some artists are more than happy to do, like we just talked about Timmy B or some of the new school guys, and they're doing panel size one-shot pieces that are beautiful. But if you're wanting to get tattooed by, say, Teresa Sharp or Julian Siebert or Steve Moore, they're only going to do sleeves and back pieces. You're not going to collect a deltoid piece for Teresa Sharp. I mean, unless you've got the end. I mean, I don't know how you get her to do that. So that's another limiting factor, is like the scale of work that artist is actually doing. If you want to collect from, realism folks, Phil Garcia, Bob Tyrell, people who are doing smaller kind of panel pieces, you could build a bodysuit probably out of 20 artists, Yeah,
but you also, but again, if you don't have like somebody directing it, and you could fall prey to the I don't want to disparage any tattoos because there's some pretty awesome ones, but like the stackable portrait syndrome, right? Where it's all of a sudden it's like, and I have a sleeve full, I mean, they're birds, but they're stackable portraits.
Yeah.
And, whereas if the whole thing was kind of mapped out ahead, it'd have a full, I mean, it works great. And then like and obviously a lot of those artists are very skilled at moving one in. Most of them are skilled in moving one tattoo into the other so that it can look cohesive.
Yeah. Yeah. The challenge I think that a lot of the stackable portrait people run into is that they need great photos to make realism. And a lot of times you don't have as many options when you're looking for a specific photo. So, ideally you would, if you've got a calf piece that you're looking straight on at the portrait, the portrait above it, you should be kind of looking up at. The portrait below it, you should be looking down at. But, there's not always the option to have that figure, whatever that image is, you may not find the photo that you need to make that happen. And when you're doing realism, you don't really get to invent very much, So the way that I like to work, and the illustrative style tattooer is like, if I can't find the figure or the hand from the perspective that I need, I can invent it because it's an idea of a hand. I'm not trying to copy a specific hand. So
yeah, no, absolutely. It's like watching pieces get, and I'm guilty of it, or of getting it, of making artists do it or not knowing enough, just having lighting different, all that kind of stuff is really makes the difference between looking at an arm or a leg and being like, oh shit, and being like, oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, you're right.
I think,
go ahead.
Sorry, I was going to say that tattoo artists are the number one, I would say one of the most influential pieces for a client to see. And as like tattoo artists are growing up and having more cohesive pieces, I think like their clients are going to kind of follow suit. It might be slow, but that is something that we're kind of graduating into as, time is growing. Instagram and social media and all these types of things are showing and enlightening clients in new ways. Yeah. But I mean, you yourself, or if someone looks at you and they see that sort of cohesion, that's kind of gonna have an effect, a cause and effect that will get larger over time.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, and people, people are drawn to different artists, for all kinds of different reasons. That being, kind of one. And though you're right, the artists are the ones that are kind of that have to lead the way. It's hard for a client to. It would be nearly impossible for a client to truly map out what their body suit is going to look like, unless they have some, art background, yeah, it's completely up to the artist. And I know that in my case, my one of the things that people come to me for is flow, trying to move your eye through a composition. So I try to make sure that I'm sweeping shapes and things like that, or finding interesting ways to get from one piece of the body to the next piece of the body, to move people's eye through it. And so whether it's intentional or not, it's intentional on my part, but whether the clients recognize that that's what I'm doing or not, that is something that people, I think, they're drawn to. They'll be like, I just like, they may word it differently. Maybe they don't recognize that it's flow, but that's what it is. So people are drawn to what they're drawn to. Some people like pork chopped kind of, stackable, traditional style tattoos that are disjointed. They just like that look. I'm amazed by how many Instagram, not tattooers, but like famous Instagram people have these like little quarter-sized tattoos that are just stacked everywhere, like a word here, a symbol here, this, and they're just like everywhere with their whole body. It looks like a complete disaster to me, but it's not it's not much of it.
Speaking of that, you know what, shifting to the pop culture segment of the Tattoo Weekly, or maybe it's ancient pop culture. I watched Memento for the first time.
Memento, I think I've seen that.
Have either of you watched Memento?
Is it Tom Cruise or no?
No, I don't even know the actor. I recognize one of them, but I think it was 2000, maybe right around there. It was about a guy with no memory, with with memory loss. He forgets the day, and he ends up tattooing the clues to the crime on himself.
That sounds
it's wicked good. It's the Nolan brothers. I think it's the Nolan brothers' first movie or close to the first movie. And I'm able to talk about it because it's a crossover of pop culture and tattoos. The tattoos play a very large part. And in fact, I was a rebel back then. So everyone was like, you should see this movie. It's about a guy who tattoos the clues on himself. I'm like, just because a guy tattoos in a movie doesn't mean I give a shit about it. Come to find out, the Nolan brothers are amazing. And it actually drove the plot along perfectly. It was an amazing movie. Didn't even get dated. That was great. Memento.
I'll check it out. I just checked I don't have my second screen today, so I just flipped over to YouTube, and there's a decent discussion going on the Fireside YouTube. But Win Color says that is a good movie, so you've got a second on that. I haven't seen it. Let's see. There's a few other folks that commented on this.
Any other questions or comments?
Let's see. Oh, there are a lot of them. Sorry. Faith Win also said, let's see. My last dozen tattoos have been from apprentices wherever I was working. I always end up in the hot seat. I've donated my body to learning. That's another way to approach it, I guess. That's a real sacrifice that you're making. Amber Morgaine says, I would plan better on my legs and saved more skin for larger pieces. I did a lot of tattooing on my own legs during my apprenticeship, so my legs look a bit like sticker books now. Pretty common as well.
It's funny sometimes how the tattooing yourself is viewed upon, right? Like, so a lot of people consider it like the only way to do the rite of passage, and then other people are like, fuck that shit, I'm gonna get tattooed by awesome people and learn from them. Yeah, definitely. It's great to be able to donate your skin to the apprentices, though. They should be very thankful for everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I usually leave that to the apprentices' friends, But what's funny is now, just the folks that reach out to us and either comment or say they're starting their journey. It's amazing how much older so many beginning tattooers are now. And I wonder what kind of challenge that presents to them, because if you have a 20-year-old apprentice, all their friends just want free tattoos. So they could tattoo 7 days a week, all day, and just their friends don't care, as long as 20-year-olds don't care what they're getting tattooed. But if you're a 45-year-old person just starting your tattoo journey, your friends are probably all already kind of established and well into their careers and more thoughtful. I don't know. Maybe I'm.
It depends on the quality of the artist, right? So, I've watched, in the last couple of years, like one of the oldest people, learned to tattoo. He was an exceptionally accomplished artist ahead of time. So there were legions of people who, I don't know about legions of people, but there was definitely enough people that were like, fuck yeah, I'll have you tattoo that shit on me, practice on you. So again, if somebody's, 45 or 55, and is just learning art, at the same time, they probably don't necessarily, or, unless they're like musicians or have some other following. Again, hopefully, hopefully any artist is going to have produced enough value so that there's enough, that's kind of one of the ways to know that you're bringing in an artist who's going to grow tattooing and not take from it, right? Like if they have enough want to be friends and family, they're like, fuck yeah, I'll support this artist and make sure they learn to tattoo. There you go. If somebody's like hustling to find it and doesn't have a portfolio to back it up, or a mailing list or whatever it might be, again, then maybe they, everyone gets their shot and you can turn it around or whatever. But that's one of those early tests to tell about whether people are bringing in people or not. So that's what I would propose for the older tattooers, people learning. If you already have a crew of people that are down with your shit, then you'll have a much easier time. Otherwise, there's all that time that you have to invest in, against. Again, I think in some ways it's almost, it feels like it'll be less and less opportunities for the 20-year-olds as there will be for more mature people who are artists who already have learned how to do all their art already, but maybe not. I mean, I guess that's one of the beautiful things about tattooing is that any fucking 10-year-old could pick up a stick and poke, and if they get good at it, I mean, Philip Root didn't fucking give a shit about the rules. Sorry, I didn't mean to.
I wonder if that's true. If older tattooers will have the upper hand just because of their experience or beginning tattooers, and trying to put myself in a position of being a shop owner and trying to bring on talent. I guess I would probably. I mean, I would. If all things were equal, I would go for an older beginner than a kid. If they're drawing, everything else was all the same, I would probably go for the older person. If I had a choice, just because they're probably a little more stable, I don't know. Yeah. Good point. Yeah. Do we want to hit on those, since I don't know if you guys talked about it much last night, but we want to hit on the conventions that we both did. Did you guys cover a lot with Tahoe last week?
You should go for it. You've been gone, so or you two could go for the conventions. I mean, I haven't hit any conventions. I'm hiding out.
We had Space City is always such a fun show, and I had 2 really solid days of tattooing, and then the third day I was going to podcast, but I was exhausted from 2 days of tattooing, and I hadn't even got to walk the aisles. So I just walked around and kind of hung out and saw what everyone was up to. We did for the first time. It was actually a lot of fun. A lot of you guys who follow Fireside know Scott. He's been behind the camera since the beginning. And Scott and I helped Shaquem to project the main stage to the big screens, but we did it in a pretty cool way where we had we had one kind of mobile shot and a couple of static shots. And so we were able to, with all the tattoo competitions and stuff like that, Scott got up there and got super close and got to put them all on the giant, projectors and stuff like that. So everyone could see the tattoo of the day, as tight as you could get on it, which was pretty cool. The only thing that I wish is that, projectors just had better quality. When you're in a big room, the projectors aren't quite as, they don't do the cameras justice, but it was really a lot of fun.
80-inch digital TVs.
That would be good. Yeah. He had I don't know what they were, probably 200-inch. They were massive screens. They looked like, they were on big rigs and stuff, which was cool that they were so big, but they were, and the projectors were high quality. I think it's just, you're projecting light in a well-lit room. So that's the only downside, but it was still really cool. I've never done that at a show before. And it was nice to for people to be able to, look from their booths or from the aisles and just actually see super tight, close up what's happening in the tattoo competitions. That was fun. And I think we had more attention paid to the competitions than in most any show that I've been to,
I'm sure
for the size of the show.
It's great that you had a mixer too. I do that for shows sometimes, but it's often just me running it. So it's you get to see the cool close up of the picture, and then it's whoa, oh, okay, there we go. Back to
making everyone nauseous.
Having the 2 shots though, mixing that shit up is great. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. It's and you get to see the every cool tattoo.
Right. Yeah. That was super fun.
Can you guys hear me?
You're a little broken up. We kind of lost you.
Oh, okay. Yeah, my microphone right now. But I was curious about that because that's the one thing I think that's always been missing. The connecting and actually seeing other people's work. That's a huge learning experience. But when you're in your booth, you really can't leave.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like you get the best view in the whole world if you're looking around the corner to the stand or wherever it is. But that's so cool that you guys put that together, especially because it's. You can hear it, but to see it is a total different thing,
Yeah, definitely. And you're right. That's the problem. And it's a little bit of it's a hard problem to solve because if you are, doing walk-up tattoos, or you're not scheduling in advance and you spend all the money to get there and you spend the money on the booth, you really need to be tattooing as much as you can. But really it's a networking opportunity and an opportunity to see what other people are doing and draw from that. And so it's tough sometimes to get out of your booth and go and do that for a variety of reasons. Some people are just nervous to walk the aisles and talk to people. A lot of artists aren't good at that. And also you need to be tattooing. So what I've done, and I know it's not an option for everyone, but I've tried to book, 2 full days so that I can make sure that my day rate covers all the expenses to get there, and then leave a day open just to like enjoy the show and try not to just walk back and forth to the bar. That's my challenge. But I was able to do that. I got to take Sunday completely off and wander, got to hang out a little bit with a handful of folks that I don't see that often. Euless Blair and Matt Stebley took, I think, best of show and tattoo of the day. They did a collaboration. They did a couple of their own tattoos. They kind of, I don't know if they swept the event, but they did really well if you care about tattoo competitions. It was stacked. A lot of the familiar folks that we've always had on the show from that convention, Oscar Zornosa who's the Chattanooga drawing a blank, Evan Qualls, all kinds of guys I haven't gotten to see in a long time. So it was a lot of fun. Shaquem always does a great job.
Cool.
Who was there who's never been there before? Dave Tevenall was there.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he was. I didn't really see if he tattooed or not the last day. I know he did not, but he was selling like skateboard decks and stuff like that. I'm sure he tattooed while he was there as well. But it was, that they're starting to draw in. That's never been a show that just brought in, huge names, but they're starting to, pull bigger and bigger artists, which is cool to see.
Awesome. We've got a couple more comments, and I also want to show off Jesse Smith's NFT.
I got one. I'm on the list. I got one. I'll show it to you when it drops tomorrow, I think.
It's going to drop tomorrow. Yeah. Well, here, I guess while we're on it here, you want to talk a little bit about what you know about it, and I'll screen share.
I don't know a whole lot about it other than he reached out and put me on the list for
nice. Okay.
For when.
Let me. I've got.
I know it's Carcaeus. It's based off of his, the project that he's been working on for a long time now. His characters that live in the land of Carcaeus and all are interrelated, which, we've talked to Jesse about that quite a few times, but how he does, individual kind of pieces on people, but he knows how all the characters are related. So these people end up with, relationships. His collectors end up with relationships that they don't necessarily know the origins of. So it's pretty cool the way that he keeps himself entertained.
Yeah, it's definitely fun. So this is crypto.com. And to your point, it's fun that he's got a world that, that he has been creating with a lot of help from all the different artists. And the blockchain crypto gives people the opportunity to, again, have that unique piece of it. And he walked me through a little bit of it yesterday. This is on crypto.com.
Yeah, and, I signed up for that. It's a pretty easy one. I think crypto.com will kind of, it seems like they're kind of taking the lead and not making it quite as difficult they're trying to do everything in one place. So you don't have to, it's been kind of a lot of hoops to jump through to get into NFTs and crypto and convert currencies. And it's all done on different platforms. And I think crypto is trying to bring it all together. And basically, I think you can just like use US dollars and buy, NFTs, and they do all the conversions for you, which is cool.
Yeah, it didn't take me super long to get through it, right? So you create the crypto.com account, and then the NFT account is subtly different. So you create a new, you just click the buttons on the app, right? And then you create the NFT spot, and then it's from there, like you were saying, you just kind of, plug the numbers, you find Jesse Smith and give him a follow, because he'll be doing a whole bunch of drops, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
NFT drops.
And for folks who haven't been paying attention, it's not just digital images. They come with, with utility. So if you own one of Jesse's NFTs, you get things like a free entry to the Richmond Tattoo Fest for as long as you own the NFT, and a bunch of other kind of utilities that he's building in. So it's kind of like, it's a club. It's a club where you get benefits outside of just having a unique piece of Jesse's art. And not just Jesse, most everyone that's doing NFTs have some type of utility built into it. So that's the important thing to look at.
Yeah, the
There you
utility is
go.
definitely
Utility,
like
free
the key
tattoo.
part is so let's see. So utility, free tattoo, collect 5 critters within a mini composition to be eligible to receive a free tattoo by an artist of their choice, subject to the availability of the artist, of course, with flight and hotel included. Look at that shit.
Yeah.
The more mini compositions collected, the more entries you will have. And then we will randomly pick 5 winners by a method to be determined. Please read the terms and conditions. You can click here to read them. You also have the ability to burn the 5 creatures in exchange for an airdrop of the mini comp that has all 5 creatures. So
yeah, a lot of terminology that's still a little bit foreign, but it'll all become more, common as
people can move around. Cool. And certainly, Jesse and all the artists that are here love to explain to people how to do it. Like I said, Jesse walked me through it yesterday pretty, within a half hour, and that was over text, and then, so we have a lot of, Josh Woods, Dominic Lessard, Tom Bowman, these are also pretty awesome artists that are lending in there.
Definitely.
There's David Koenig, Willie.
David Koenig, yeah.
Oh, I know Adam Aquas. But it looks like this is the full world here. So the full composition.
So. Yeah. And so my assumption is the reason those are all silhouetted is that, there are different characteristics that each of those characters have. And whenever you mint an NFT, they will be randomly generated and it'll have some sort of rarity or scarcity to it. So they're not really silhouettes. If you're new to this, it'll be actual characters.
Well, if you purchase it, right? Is that how you get them when you purchase the NFTs potentially?
Yeah. So when the NFT is minted, that's when it generates. So minting is done that's the first kind of step, and then it can be sold on a third party site after that, after it's minted. So then what it is, But whenever, like the one that I'll get tomorrow when they drop, it's random what it may end up being. It might be a super rare one, or it might be something that's fairly common. But once it's minted, it's done. And then if I wanted to resell it, I could resell it through crypto.com and people would know exactly how rare it is. But that's kind of the cool thing about minting them, is like they're all the same price. And then you might mint one that's worth, 100 times what you paid for it. Just, like it's like kind of a lottery. Pretty cool.
What's he doing? Twitter Spaces. Maybe this is why it looks like. So I'm here on I can't pronounce that.
Carcaeus.
Carcaeus. There you go. Yeah. Carcaeus. That makes sense. CARKAYOUS.com. And it's got a little click here to hang out with Jesse Smith every Monday and Wednesday. That's pretty cool. In the Twitter Spaces, if you're into the Twitter sphere.
It's super cool. And everyone's in, jumping in on this, and it's still, a little early, a little confusing. If anyone watching doesn't know much about it, we did a 3-part series with Jesse, Frank Linatra, and Nick Baxter about NFTs and what they might mean to tattooing in the future. And it's on the Fireside. It's actually the most recent playlist, I think, on the Fireside YouTube channel and on fireside.com, thanks to Gabe. Is it up on fireside.com or no?
Sorry, I was reading the
the NFT series.
Live. It's live.
It's live. Sweet. Yeah, go watch it there instead of YouTube.
Absolutely. James Wisdom says, not sure if older means more stable to the previous conversation.
That's a good point. I thought that as soon as I said it.
There's no such thing as absolutes, of course. There's young, precocious people who are more mature for their age. And then there are old, cranky people who will never get it. But on the other hand, I just think statistically speaking, the more experience you have, the more likely you are to not have to learn that shit on the job, right? And again, tattooing such a, I don't know, like I said, I love the fact that, people can, it's very enabling. But I do also somehow think that, only when I get into my most pretentious, it's like only the master artists should be fucking marking people permanently. And then the poor white trash in me is like, unless you're fucking using that shit to get yourself out of the gutter, then fucking feel free to do whatever you need to, right? It's a wonderful thing. You just have to make up for all of your mistakes. That's the other lesson.
Yeah, we have a few more. I agree. As soon as I said that out loud, you're right. There's no guarantee that being older makes you more mature or stable. There are a few more comments here on. I know we're getting close to quitting time. There are a few more comments here on the Fireside chat. Let me see. What is it? Sushi Inc. There's a small convention in Indiana in June. Any advice for a new artist? I'm extremely nervous about bringing 2 people with me that wear my work. I don't want them to get called out, get called out for having your work on them. You guys have any advice for a new artist doing what I assume is their first convention?
So are you, I guess I'm wondering, are they tattooing at the convention, or are they just attending with some clients?
That's a good question. They might need to clarify that. There's a small convention in Indiana in June. Any advice for a new artist bringing 2 people with me that wear my work? I assumed that they were working the convention, but
that's kind of what I assumed. If you do a search for like needle jig tattoo convention tips in YouTube, I did a whole video or helped produce a video that is tattoo convention. So that if you're a tattooer that is going to a convention, that would be one of, oh, look at that. It's the first video on Google when I type it in.
Look at that.
Here, let me screen share this shit real quick. Because I made it. Well, I helped make it. I produced it. Fuck off. Sorry.
While
and
you're loading,
then-
I would say the biggest tip I have is preparedness, being prepared that in any way that is outside of your tattoos, so you don't have to stress about it. Like if you're driving, all the things you could possibly get stressed out of, like how organized you are going in, where you're going to eat. Think of those things before you go, so you're not standing there in the convention and something's happening.
Keep your mic near your mouth.
Yeah.
So you're not so stressed out. Get those things set up. Like, how close is your hotel? Where are you going to park? Are you going to walk? Do you have something? Do you have a huge cart? How are you going to unload? Do you have everything you need to hang the stuff? But I'm sure Gabe will talk to you, but definitely organization rather than worrying about what anyone will think of you or your tattoos. Just make sure that you think about you first and go in with a level head, because it's going to be a lot for you and it's going to be overwhelming. But as long as you're calm, you should be able to be okay.
Yeah, I would say make friends with your booth neighbors as fast as you can, as soon as you get there. I was so scared to talk to other tattooers when I first started doing conventions. And then now what I do is whoever's next to me, I introduce myself and say hi. And I've literally made some of my best tattoo friends exactly that way. Just happen to end up next to someone. It's how I've met almost everyone that I meet, in tattooing. Is by introducing myself, and it makes you just feel more comfortable. Now you have a friend, you know their name, you can, and then if you like, for example, in Space City just now, I forgot my scissors. And so I made a friend as soon as I walked up, the guy who was in the booth next to me, luckily he already knew Fireside. He introduced himself to me, and then I had scissors for the weekend. Perfect.
That's true.
Yeah, there's no question that, and not taking offense, also knowing that people are wicked busy, at conventions. I definitely, it took a while, to meet like Bob or Jeff or some people where there's always crowds around, or or Jeff, there wasn't a crowd around, but he was not making eye contact. But I didn't take offense to it, right? There's a lot of people, and but yeah, let me. Can I run like a 2.5 minute a clip here of this?
Yeah, let me. Sushi Inc. Clarified they are attending only. They have 2 sleeves.
Okay.
And he says that he can take the criticism, but he doesn't want the clients to feel bad. I don't think, I would be really, really surprised if anyone were to comment. There are so many bad tattoos going around conventions, and not that these sleeves are bad. I don't know if they're good or bad, but I wouldn't even consider that as it's not even a threat. No one's going to call anyone out on their bad tattoos. And maybe if you go around and showing them to different artists and asking what they think about them, they may be honest with you, and which is a good thing. But I wouldn't worry about them feeling bad or getting called out about their tattoos.
Yeah, I mean, I guess like criticizing a tattoo on the client, right? You're introducing doubt into the client's mind, right? So like if you're really looking for a hardcore critique, to your point, most of the tattooers aren't going to say it in front of the client. Like any tattooer that has a respect for any clientele isn't going to be like, I want to bash or introduce doubt of the tattoo to the client. Mm-hmm. So that said, that means that the clients are either going to show off the tattoos, and then you come back around afterwards and be like, so now what did you what could I have done better for the tattoo?
Yeah. Right. Okay. So what, you were going to play a clip? Sorry.
Yeah. Well, for the tattooers here, and we did start a little late, so it can't hurt to put it up here. This is the Tattoo Convention Tips, Experienced Tattoo Artist Advice from the Needle Jig Tattoo Supply YouTube channel.
Company. Oh, YouTube
and
channel.
Like I said, I produced this a little while back, so I'm happy to kind of show off the first little clip here. But I do need to get this right, because otherwise,
Get it right. Don't go screwing up on live TV.
woohoo, on live Roku, or actually, I
Yeah.
guess it's live. Let's see here. So I had it right up here, and then it disappeared. This is okay. Tattoo convention tips. Here we go. Got it. Got it. Okay, we're back. Share screen, share sound, optimize for clip. Desktop 2. Here we go.
Tattoo conventions are coming back. Would you like some tips, tricks, professional insights, and downloadable checklists to help you with your next shows? Stay tuned. Hey kids, life's been crazy, man. I don't have to tell you that. We went from multiple conventions every single weekend to absolutely nothing. And looks like the world's starting to get back to normal, just a little bit anyways. And we're going to try and make the best of that. Now, I've been going to tattoo conventions either as an attendee or working them for 30 years now. And I can tell you, I've made an awful lot of mistakes. I've forgotten my gear. I've forgotten to book rooms. Anything you can think of, I've probably made at some point over the last 3 decades. So we've gotten together with a bunch of, solid tattooers that travel regularly. What we have here is a collection of tips, tricks, and professional insights. I'm going to help tell you what to do, what not to do, including some downloadable forms and checklists and stuff for you to help you out getting to shows, being prepared for the shows, and, conducting business at the show. What are you looking for out of a tattoo convention? Are you looking to just show up and get sloppy with your buddies in a strange town? I gotta tell you, that's a lot of fun. But are you more motivated and focused? Are you looking to capitalize to capacity on each and every show? Are you doing marketing in advance? Are you very detailed in your presentation at your booth? Do you know what you want to say to people when they come up? Do you know what you don't want to say to people when they come up? How do you handle your clients there? Do you follow through afterwards? We've got an awful lot of good information here. So enough of my jabbering. Let's talk to some great artists that do conventions on a regular basis. They are more current than I am when it comes to that, because I haven't tattooed at a show in a number of years. Grab a cold one and let's talk tattoo.
I have done many tattoo conventions over the last decade. There are many tricks and tips just to kind of keep yourself on game, keep yourself ahead and organized as well. I have had a very organized system for years.
So this is a 20-minute video that definitely would encourage tattooers to check out. The checklist. Well, the link is there also on the checklist. It's pretty sweet. It's meant to be, this is like a version of it. It was such a good format that, I kind of made one for myself. It's fun. It's awesome working with Mark because I was able to come up with the digital version. He was like, "Ooh, why don't you do it like this?" And I was like, I love that shit. And now I've got checklists, also all kinds of
super
checklists.
cool. I haven't used that. You sent me a version of that when you first did it, and then I spaced it, and I haven't looked at it again. But I'll use it before Hell City. Can't hear you, Lauren.
Yeah, I'll do that too.
Yeah, that's cool. I completely forgot about it until you just mentioned it again.
You know what? I'm going to open it up here real quick so that people could kind of get a. Well, you know what? No, I'm not going to, because then like the screenshots would be okay, but you really want to download the real thing.
Yeah.
And but it's what do we have here? So it's got like event name, event dates, registration and form and fee submitted, received confirmation from convention, confirm your booth partner, maybe confirm a guest spot nearby, and then there's like event prep and then travel prep. And it's like I said, it's 2 pages that it has a packing list, which is cool. You can just print it out. I mean, obviously it's got well, not obviously, it's got a packing list. It's great. And then different tasks, make sure you have your business card, stickers, portfolio, etc.
Yeah, download it. Check it out. Before we wrap up, I've got Michael Martin has been commenting, and I haven't mentioned any of it yet. I'll go through his. Sushi Inc. says, "Thank you so much. I won't lose any sleep over it now." Yeah, I don't lose any sleep over that. Michael Martin had just said that he's a longtime artist that's just getting into the medium earlier on, and he just said artistic value is so subjective. What one person loves, another will hate, and he personally hates the comparing and valuing, devaluing process, and that's true. Artistic value being subjective, but there's also a lot of the issues that we have, and not just in tattooing, but in commercial art, professional art altogether, is a lot of people using their artistic license or their style as an excuse for not learning the principles of good art. So while the artistic value is subjective, it's also a crutch. That statement is a lot of times a crutch. Like, oh, well, they just don't like, my style. It's like, well, no, you haven't learned, the
fundamentals.
Fundamentals, composition, value, how light reveals form, how to use edges, how to use color theory, all the things that you need to know in order to consider yourself a professional, especially in this medium. So I agree with Michael's point with the subjectivity, but I would say that a lot of times we have issues. One of the biggest issues is people using that type of statement as an excuse for not putting in the work.
Yeah, and the argument is because the argument is it's a little bit not quite right. Like, just because art is subjective doesn't mean that there is no such thing as good art. And I think one of the things that we love about tattooing is there is a veil of the artistic pretentiousness that has to come off. Look, if someone could shit in a fucking room and charge $500,000 and call it art, I'm all for it, right? Like art is subjective. If somebody wants to value it that much and think of it as art, and maybe it is a good statement, or any of the other variations of what freaky art might be, where somebody might look at it and be like, really, that's just a piece of shit in the middle of a room where someone else knows the artistic statement, but whatever it might be, right? But and with the amount of bad things that people spend stupid amounts of money on, art is probably the best thing I could think of. But that said, you can't put some shit on somebody and call it a good tattoo. Like there's a level of this now is not just hanging on a wall. This is inside of somebody's body, right? And where somebody might. And again, we have to be careful, because if somebody gets a stick figure drawing that sucks, or quote sucks, but if it their kid who's dead drew it, then all of a sudden it has all of the meaning in the world, even though it's not your idea of what a great piece of art is. And so. But that said, you do a portrait of somebody and it doesn't look right, it doesn't fucking look right. It's bad, right? And if you do that on purpose because it's stylistically and it makes somebody go ooh and ah, well, maybe then it's good, right? And then there's room for improvisation. I don't know. But point is, there is good art and bad art. There's no question about it. On the other hand, it's just like karma, right? It's not absolute. Just because you have to have a positive attitude about something to make it through to the other side doesn't mean you will, because nature might fuck you up, and it doesn't mean that somebody with a bad attitude might somehow. A broken clock is right 2 times a day. So there's no way that you could look at incidental stories to call it proof. Anyways.
Right. Yeah.
That's my thoughts. Yeah. Lauren, how do you feel about bad tattoo art? I mean.
Exactly what you said, Jake. Subjectivity. It does still have to run by the rules. So you could say, I have a great car, but does it actually run on the road? It's right. What you're saying is exactly what I would have thought. And there's technical capabilities as well as was the art actually fundamentally correct? Right. It might have been fundamentally correct, but their application sucked. There's a lot of different ways that you could grade, but
yeah,
I kind of got lost in what you were saying, Gabe. Not gonna lie.
Michael Martin said he agrees with that statement as well. Hard to make one statement about a subject that has so much depth and touch on all the aspects. That's for sure, especially in the chat. All right, if we said it all, I've got another appointment here. We're 10 minutes after.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Awesome.
We got a full hour out of this.
Yep. So thanks again, everybody.
Next week will be number 32, and the following week. Following 2 weeks, we'll be probably going live from Health City if we want to decide on that. And nice. So if you're watching, maybe a Sunday episode is planned for May 22nd. We'll do a Sunday.
Absolutely. Maybe Jake, do you want maybe that's what we should be planning for the Sunday.
That sounds good. Yeah, let's do that. Maybe we'll try to come up with something, maybe make it a little bit longer and come up with something special, since we'll be all under the same roof for the first time ever.
All right. That sounds great.
Yeah. Cheers. Well, thanks again, everybody. We'll catch up in the future.